committee meeting to order. Roll call.
Steve Brunner.
Here.
John Woodward.
Here.
Fred Noble will be absent. Jen Renner. Here. And Bill Jennings.
Here. Okay. At this point, we have any public comment? Please. Any public comment? I thought they had some.
Well, they're an actual agenda.
They're on the agenda. Anybody else with public comment? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to item number, we're going to jump option number 21, item number 21. Meeting items recently.
So to give you some background on this, there was a decision to pave over what was a landscaping area at the median right in front of Atonement at the intersection of Penn and State Hill and Wyomissing Boulevard. The reason for that was twofold. One, underneath the dirt there was additional macadam that anything planted there would continue to die because it was thinning macadam. Also, there is almost no curb there, so trucks were hopping over the curb and driving through any landscaping that was planted there. Agree that it does not look ideal. When we were talking about this at one of the last meetings, shortly after, Girl Scouts reached out and said, hey, we have a community service project idea we would be interested in talking to the borough about. So with that, I will let you give a brief description of what you're interested in doing.
So, we saw like all these like people, and we saw like cars driving around. But it's one of like the first things, like if you come from the airport or if you come from anywhere that's not in like Wyomissing or Reading, you see this, and you see flowers right next to it. So like it would stay with all the bright colors, but we could paint it like differently so that it looks better to the eye.
And before they move forward, their next meeting's not till September. So before they move forward with doing anything, it was a general, are you even interested in, they'd have to come up with a concept plan?
And they would bring designs, yes. So they, as a troop, two troops would create the designs, they would vote on their top three, and then we would send 3 of those designs to you for you to decide if you would like one of those. And the main implementer would be my husband, who is also a troop leader for 2 of the troops, who is a public school art teacher. Not in Wyomissing, he works in Boyer County.
What is it?
Huh?
What is it?
The person who's going to oversee it.
Like a project
Project manager.
Yeah. So
Okay,
he would be your contact, not
So who's going to be painting it
the girls.
in that dangerous intersection?
Right. So that was part of why we were bringing it to you, because that.
I would think we could do traffic control there.
I was going to say we'd have to do traffic control. Well,
Well,
we'll have to find out.
that's the only way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just want to clarify, it would be an abstract artistic and not a sign, not a symbol. It would just be an artistic abstract thing. Right, okay.
And from what vantage point could anybody see it?
Well, because that white area is there, I mean, you can see it.
Well, if you're driving by.
Right, as you're coming in. Yeah, so it won't be a mural like they do in West Reading. Like it won't be a picture of something that people would be staring at. It would more be, it would be colored, and again, the designs that the girls come up with, you have to decide which ones you like. Which could be more representative or not, but it would at least put color back on that corner instead of what is now painted concrete brick.
I don't see the harm in looking at
And you can always
concept
decide that.
drawings, and then at that time, then we can make an intelligent decision.
So whose idea was it?
Well, this is my daughter Nev, so it was her and her dad and a couple other girls from our troops.
Well done.
The other troop
Yeah.
is Sarah Smith's troop, right?
It is not.
Oh, I thought she was 193.
No, she's 193, we're 192.
Oh, this says 193 on here, that's
my fault.
Okay, yeah, it should be 192, okay.
So it would be
I was
7th
like, I
grade
didn't
Girl
hear about
Scouts and 4th grade. Yeah, 7th and 4th grade Girl Scouts working together.
I guess my question would be, once this whole PennDOT thing goes, like, this could be very temporary, number one. I mean, there's a lot of safety issues with people on that street, and like literally probably having to close it down to a certain degree. I'd be very scared of this. But this might get ripped out in a few years as well, because PennDOT will be addressing that intersection at some point.
I don't think the circle got all the way up to there, did it?
It will be, I would say, till it gets to Penn and State Hill, that will, knowing what we know, that'll be,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, yeah, but this is
20,
not gonna
30,
be a lifelong.
There-
it's
there's
not-
No, and it doesn't-
in existence,
If it
I don't
is,
last
it's
that
gonna be a
long.
footnote, Yeah.
The requirements
I
for their
mean-
project, it does not have to be something that lasts forever.
I guess the next question is it gonna just start chipping and peeling and because
Well, we
it
would do
is-
research to find out what would be
Yeah,
the best
it's
solution.
just getting hit by sun and weather versus a mural, which is,
Right.
you know,
Well,
vertical.
not to mention tires. You know, if
Yeah.
somebody wants to make a turn, they're gonna drive it even.
Yeah, I mean, have we thought
Trucks
about just
drive over.
ripping that little strip out? Just
That's it.
taking that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about at some point improving that whole area, but it's gotta be part of the streets project, and then the PennDOT project came into play that it's like, why spend the money to do something that's gonna get ripped out
So
anyway?
this is all just
Temporary.
Well, I've had some issues with this project. Essentially, the project as it started, which was a green piece of concrete as opposed to grass and flowers. I think there's a lot going on with that particular area, and it's kind of premature to go to the point of painting things or figuring this out. Because I do think, as I've said a number of times, I think we need to be on the ball with PennDOT every month with a letter talking to them about the roundabout that they prospectively think they want to put at that corner. If we're doing that regularly, the idea would be that eventually between the hotel, which somehow has been brought into the picture of the historic, although PennDOT says it isn't, but that's kind of self-serving, because they're trying to get rid of it, and the other house that's there, which again, self-serving, but to the extent that those two owners of those buildings may have an opportunity to push that issue along with us and Atonement, by the way, who hasn't been in this project at all, spoken to about what's gonna happen to their area. Assuming we send something on a regular basis to PennDOT, we might really end up sort of winning the battle in the war. In the meantime, I think if you look at that area, I mean, clearly, there was curb there at one time. The reason there's no curb there is because the macadam was built up so high that you have a 1.5-inch curb. On the other side, it's 7 inches. Well, if we did what we're able to do, which is somehow fix that part of the street, apparently the trucks are coming around, asterisk below that, if the roundabout goes through, how are these trucks coming around that corner of the roundabout and coming down Wyomissing Boulevard? I haven't figured that out yet. I'm not sure PennDOT has either. But to the extent that you can build up that side of the curb, and if there's a macadam in there, how did that get there? We've been planting flowers for 25 years. Now there's macadam there. Get the macadam out, put the dirt in, plant the flowers, and then you're good. On top of that, I'm not sure why we advertise Frank Sinatra and everybody else coming to Wyomissing. We don't need those signs in the middle of that property. We used to put a sign up there by the telephone pole that said Easter egg hunt. Well, everybody in Wyomissing knew about the Easter egg hunt. We went to the Easter egg hunt. We don't need to advertise and put a big angle iron thing in the concrete and put signs there on a regular basis. And we don't need to put murals, because I think West Reading has the corner murals. We don't need a mural there, and I think if we're gonna look at something like this, we need to let everybody know we're doing it, because I bump into people all the time that think that concrete looks like, you know what, murals. It just doesn't look good. So I think there's a lot more that has to go into this discussion other than, well, let's get a concept and paint some murals. Let's figure out whether we might want to just fix it and let PennDOT deal with it. We spend money like it's going out of style on a regular basis here. Let's fix something that's been there for 50 years, plant the flowers in like it always was, and let people know that, yeah, it looks pretty nice, instead of trying to dream something else up that just makes us go nuts.
Well, girls, you understand that if it does go through, there could be a chance that it gets dug up in the next
Decade.
Yeah.
6 years.
2 years, 10 years, somewhere between that.
Yeah.
As long as you understand, I think does anybody have a problem with them at least giving us some, it would help for me, I'm a visual guy, to see what they're talking about visually.
No,
And-
and is there another location that might be an alternative? Because it's an exciting project, and it's really great that you guys are so enthusiastic and willing to volunteer your time
Well, if
and
the chief
put it out
can-
there, but.
If the chief can, I think they obviously picked that location because you think it needs it the most, correct? If we can find a way, would you be willing to do it on a slower day of traffic, at a slower time of traffic? I don't wanna do this on a Tuesday afternoon at
Right.
noon.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Saturday would be the best, or Sunday evening. Church
Yes.
with atonement right there on a Sunday during the day might be.
Yeah,
a
you
little
won't do it
bit
then
easier.
either, right?
Maybe
Is
a
that something
Sunday,
you'd be
Saturday.
willing to work around? 'Cause
Absolutely.
obviously for the safety of the children.
Yes.
Not just that, it's,
Yes.
we gotta do the right thing by traffic.
So we'll have our meeting in September, we'll have them draw up some designs, and then we'll send them to you, and then at the time, you could say, actually, we've decided, no, thank you,
Perfect.
and then we'll find something else to
Does
do.
anybody have a problem if they submit their,
I have another something else to do project possibly.
Well, I got more triggers.
so I have no issue if you go ahead doing that, I don't think we need to vote on it.
No,
You can
okay.
submit it
No, that's-
and,
All right,
we'll go from
you
there.
can hear from us in
Parkland study,
September.
they want
Perfect.
educational
Great, thank
signage.
you.
I would just like to commend their, you know, their ideas and their thought of seeing an area that needs some improvement, and I totally agree, it does. And I commend the crew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
You don't have to go.
You can stay if you really, if you really wanna get bored.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
So going back to item number 4, next one on the list would be 1725 Dauphin Avenue.
So the property owner's engineer submitted a stormwater management plan last Wednesday, knowing that they had met the deadline based off the agreement, but that McCarthy's office was not gonna have time to review that comment and us make a decision as to where things stood by today. It made sense to table and just move the hearing to a future date, depending on McCarthy's review of that plan and the outcome. Chris and Jim, to follow up with the both of you and Joe, I have a call with the property owner on Wednesday at 3 to talk through next steps, since it sounds like there's been a little bit of lack of communication on his end with his consultants. So if any of you are free and wanna join that call, I can conference you in 3,
Wednesday at 3?
yeah.
I am available.
Okay.
So is the owner in an adversarial kind of frame of mind?
No, not at all.
Doesn't seem to be.
I feel bad for him.
You mean the owner that put the wall up?
Yes, which is why after I spoke to Joe last week, since it sounds like there is a lack of communication from the people he is paying to help him through this, I was like, let's just cut through the red tape and let's schedule a call with him to kind of talk through next steps. Because it sounds like he is very much in the dark as to requirements, what's going on, how to comply, things like that, which is frustrating because he's routine legal counsel.
Right. Thanks for sending me those pictures, by the way.
You are very welcome.
So, not much movement, but some.
I would actually say that's good progress.
Yeah.
We finally have a plan.
Alright, no wrong with that. I like results, but I guess the plan to get a result is movement. The zoning codes report then?
It's pretty self-explanatory. I do have an update under the magisterial district court report. We received a whopping 84 cents for the month of June.
Nice.
Otherwise, someone decided to pay 84 cents on a payment plan. The only update I have otherwise is the Palmer hearing was held last Wednesday, I think.
Tuesday.
Yeah, you were correct, sorry. The board did not announce a decision on the record. They're gonna reconvene on July 31st to announce a decision, and I'll let you know what it is next month.
Okay.
Did anybody have any questions on the report?
Did Chris Bayshore review?
I'm sorry?
Chris Bayshore review?
No. Though the decision hasn't been issued yet, the 30-day countdown starts.
Okay. 4th and Oley Pump Station, Wynnewood Pump Station, anything new there?
The agreements are drafted, and
Right.
I need some information
I'm gonna
from
get him this one.
Michele or Jim to fill in a couple of blanks before they go out to the developers.
Have you heard anything from developers on it?
Well, the 5 of them have all said they're gonna do it, but they haven't signed the agreement or written a check yet.
Just so I know which ones to
Well, the Internet Ready is disputing what
put. The EDU
the
calculation.
EDU credit that Dave Listler and the authority engineer came up with, which was 226 EDUs. He feels he should give credit for 500.
Yeah.
How do we figure that argument out?
Well, we independently came up with it, our office, independent of the authority engineer, and they came up with 226 and we came up with 236. So none of us came up with 500. His engineer came up with 500 with some bizarre math. Not even like the new kid math.
It sounds like he's basing it off of if he were to build it today, this is the amount of EDUs they'd be required to purchase.
Yeah, what he's saying is that he wants to take credit for the whole property as if the property was apartments, not a hotel. I've told him several times, whether you rent the room for 1 day or 17 years, it's still a hotel room. It's a hotel, it's not an apartment. And there's specific flow rates for a hotel per room versus an apartment per room. So he wants to take the credit for the apartments at the higher number, but then moving forward wants a deduction for the apartments that don't have their own laundry facilities and kitchens. And I was like, you can't do both. You know, so we basically gave him credit for and then they provided, I guess, that the conference center restaurant could have up to like 2,000 people. I never thought it was that big, but we gave him credit for the 2,000 people in there drinking, because that's more than just food, and the number of hotel rooms they had, and we came with 236, so I'm not gonna argue 10 EDUs between what Arrow calculated for the water authority and what we calculated for the borough. I think the number's somewhere in that 230 range. But
And our number was based off of historical water flow usage.
So we're gonna stick to our guns and.
it's really it's really it's the authority's fight.
They're gonna discuss it at their next board meeting.
We've historically, I mean, I guess we don't have to, Chris, but we've historically honored whatever they said somebody had to pass credit of. We always kind of take a look just to make sure we don't think something's out of whack, and we shared our calculations with them.
Well, I can't imagine why we would do something inconsistent with what the sewer authority is requiring.
Right.
Agreed. Okay.
But other than that, all the other users have agreed to enter into the agreement and pay the necessary fees up front, with the exception of the one who said depending on their legal counsel's review.
The end Reading is really gonna drive the economics of this.
Huh? Yeah.
No.
Well, that's gonna change the numbers if they're not involved.
Yeah.
The cost for the other ones will go up significantly.
Great. All right, so we're gonna wait for hear from Western Berks Water Authority on that one, let's see what we're saying here.
It's not Western Berks, it's.
JMA.
JMA.
Wyomissing
Just
Valley.
JMA.
My fault.
So do we have to
Did I
figure
say
out
this?
what the big picture is before we figure out what the charge is?
What do you mean?
Well, it sounds like the Reading motor and,
Yeah, that will significantly change the cost for the other developers, so they need to make a final determination, yea or nay.
I mean, for the motor and.
Yes.
Well, I explained to Mike that if he decided to not move forward with the agreement now, wasn't part of this, then the Wynnewood pump station wouldn't need to be upgraded. It's only being upgraded for them. But then at the point down the road, he would be on the hook for $1.2 million for that station, and then whatever it costs to upgrade Fourth and Oley again for him, which would probably be like another $1 million. So it's in his best interest to do it now while we're doing Fourth and Oley. But
So why does it behoove him to argue about the 236 versus 500?
The agreement.
because he doesn't.
That has nothing to do with the EDU calculation.
Because he doesn't want to pay for the difference. But what I explained to him was, it really doesn't matter from our end with the Wynnewood. The only thing he would potentially save on will be the Fourth and Oley pump station. The Wynnewood upgrades are entirely for him. So there's 6 going to Palmer, but 6 versus 500 it doesn't matter. So I said essentially the Wynnewood upgrade's for you and a portion of 4th and Oley is for you. If he doesn't go forward now, then everyone else that goes through 4th and Oley would have a slightly higher fee than what we're projecting.
Does that make you wonder whether he really does intend to go and help this other 2 buildings?
No, he said to me the other,
It makes me wonder.
he came over for Friday when I told him I was gonna put a stop work order on. And we talked about this too, and he said, well, it doesn't make sense for me to, between the rec fees and sewer and water fees, it doesn't pay for me to build those other units. And I was like, oh, well, I don't think it pays for you to only have 106 apartments on this big property you bought either.
And you're not gonna have a CO to use them if you contradict the testimony you gave at the hearing approving them.
Which was entering into the agreement.
Okay.
Well, could we, I think it's possible we could talk about timing of payment for the Wynnewood pump station. I mean, if he were to contribute his share of the 4th and Oley pump station, and then we would do Wynnewood when he was ready to go forward.
Right.
And he would pay at that time. I mean, that's the kind of thing I think we could have some flexibility on. But, I can't see us moving on the number of EDUs or, not charging.
So the number of EDUs that he would need for what he's got there currently, the 2 hotels.
He needs 106 for the
So
apartments.
that could run that, we have the capacity for that already.
Yeah, he already has that allocated to the site. So he doesn't need anything for those.
So without.
Which is
the
called
other
building
big-
1,000
without the
and
other big
2,000.
Project, we don't have to do, do the 4th and Oley project at this point?
No, we have to do 4th and Oley.
No
It's
matter what.
Wynnewood.
It's the Wynnewood, I'm sorry.
Wynnewood,
Yeah, because 4th and Oley has the Van Reed apartments,
Right, okay.
the Windsor Street townhouses, and the Boiler House, and Palmer.
Okay.
So
I
it
would
also
just
goes
like
for
to add to that though, that Wynnewood pump station was rebuilt in 2001, so it's pushing 25 years old, and it's not pristine at this point. I hate to forget the lady.
Okay.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, the 4th and Oley one got flooded when that culvert backed up, so we have all new pump controls and stuff in there. Or that was rebuilt at the same time. So, yeah, was it
Pristine's not a word, I think.
the wastewater
It's a
station?
word, but not what I would use with a pump station.
All right, so we have some, not negotiating, we have some information we need from the Reading to be able to step forward.
Is there a drop dead date?
Well,
Do we need an answer by a certain date, and if so, what is it?
Well, technically, a condition of their conditional use approval was execution of the sewer capacity agreement for the upgrades at both Wynnewood and 4th and Oley.
What was their deadline?
No, but he won't be able to rent the apartments until the agreement's in place.
Yeah.
Or even get a CO to,
We're
But
gonna talk
then you
about
have to
this
pay the rest.
today.
After this meeting.
then he would have to
See
pay
how
the
long
rent.
this meeting goes.
I believe that the rec fee for buildings D and E 1,000, 2,000 is already covered, right? It's the future buildings he has to pay.
Yes. At $1,500 or $1,200, whatever we increased it to.
So when the motor inn was in their heyday 40 years ago, how many EDUs did they?
We don't have.
226 or 236 by our counts.
I mean, we don't
Our
have.
records only go back 10, 12 years.
Our water flow data only goes back actually close to 20, but in terms of, we can't pull water records from that far back.
I'm not sure.
She pulled from 2002 up until 2020, I think.
Oh, I thought it only got 10 through 20.
No, Dave picked the years based off of everything. She
Okay.
sent him like 20 plus years, but he picked the years he felt it was at its prime.
At its highest.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, we're using more water in the last couple of years than they were using 10 years ago, which seemed odd. Or they had a big leak they didn't know about.
From what they told me they found in the basement, I would go with that option.
Okay. Number 7, Western Berks Water Authority. Chris, any good news this month?
I have no news this month. Our board meeting's this afternoon, so.
Jim?
I have some questions because due to my water research, very limited. So these things that are called emerging organic contaminants. So they're emerging. So how do they know going forward how many emerging contaminants there are gonna ever be? So we're worried about this one thing. Go ahead.
There's a DEP or EPA rule, unregulated contaminant, UMRC, where there's items that they know are out there that nobody samples for, nobody has to treat for them. They're unregulated. And every 5 years, they look for a handful more of these contaminants they know are out there, but nobody looks for them or needs to remove them from the water stream. And they do random testing nationwide, and they say, oh, this one we might want to add to the list over time, if that makes any sense.
So the new filters you're gonna need, what kind of filters are they?
I believe they're gonna be granulated activated carbon based, at least for removing the PFAS forever chemicals.
So you can't use electrochemical technologies to take these contaminants out.
I don't have the technical knowledge. I know there's various ways of filtering these out. It's just some are more proven, better tested, more cost efficient based on how we're set up otherwise. So.
It's the end of my research on water for the month.
Report back.
It's frightening how expensive it's going to be.
But they say this electro stuff is inexpensive.
Who's they?
Whenever I read that.
The internet.
Was that specifically?
Some DEP, yeah, some DEP regulation.
Was that specifically for the forever chemicals?
Excuse me?
Was that specifically for the PFAS?
No. Just in general.
Well, and that's
Okay, yeah. It's,
Right.
current DEP administration. There's over 1,000 forever chemicals. They've chosen only to regulate 6 as of now. That's
Right.
not to say that can't change next year or 20 years.
That means it's gonna be
Ongoing.
infinitely expensive going forward.
Yes.
This little trap we're in right now
yeah,
is
because
just
everybody's gonna have to
temporary.
upgrade to filter the
Right.
stuff out.
I
At
think
least to
the
the
government
level
will give us all
required.
grants to upgrade it.
No, they
when
won't.
Put the new things in, but somehow I doubt it.
No, they won't. Unfunded mandates.
Okay.
Jim
Do we have
has an
any- Do we have anything
update.
else to discuss on the ownership of the pipe?
Jim has an update on an incident.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
general information, last Friday,
Thursday.
Next
Thursday.
Thursday, the Water Authority has a tank up on Timberline Drive, it's underground, you don't see it, and its sole purpose is to feed West Reading. And they fill it at night, and then during the day, they switch a valve around, and that water from that tank feeds West Reading. They have to maintain it, so they have to empty it and look at the interior of it, and they don't have to do this that often. But as they were changing some valving or doing something, and I don't know exactly what happened, but it sent a surge of pressure into a little bit of our distribution system where Russo's and the Berks and Building 24 are at, caused a water main break in the service line that that feeds Russo's. And then West Reading had, the nearest of our count now is 8 main breaks between Friday and over the weekend that we assisted on. We were hauling stone for them, helping them however we could. So I'm just making you aware of that issue at this point.
So I was at Russo's on Friday, that answers the question why we were there on Friday. And that answers the question why my father had no water in West Reading.
That answers a lot of questions.
And it was because.
I can't
valve
say
flipping
exactly
by-
why. I know they were
Who's doing the valve flipping, Western Berks?
Western Berks.
I look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah.
It sounds weird to me because it's my understanding that's all the water coming from that tank. It's gravity fed coming down the hill.
Yeah,
So I don't know how there could be a surge unless.
Well, it was.
I'm not saying it
Pretty
wasn't.
big
I
one.
just I look forward to hearing why. So.
Us too.
Yeah.
Do we have you're keeping track, I assume, of our time?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what'll come of it, if anything, but
I
as
know.
far as materials and time, yes.
I had an email and a phone call from Ryan Lineweaver, President of West Reading Council, thanking us for our assistance And I said, Ryan, you're quite welcome, except I don't know what the hell you're even talking about. You know, but then I called Michele and then she.
And I always say this too, in Western Berks' defense, tomorrow, we are going to rebuild, there's 2 pressure reducing valves that feed Birdland, and we're going to rework them, we're gonna maintain them. And we have to change a lot of valving over in Birdland to do this, and it's scary. You have to change flow and interconnections, stuff can go wrong. Now, we planned as best we could, I don't think anything will happen with us tomorrow, but it's, when you're doing something that doesn't happen every day with a water system,
Too quickly or close.
stuff
Once
goes
it's
south.
So am I gonna lose water tomorrow?
If you're in Birdland, you should have, do you live in Birdland?
I do.
You should have gotten a code red today at some point, that says you'll experience low water pressure.
Okay, I haven't got anything yet.
Are you signed up for it?
I believe so.
You better check.
With the right phone number.
Take your shower soon.
Phone number hasn't changed, so.
Okay, that answers some questions I have personally now. On behalf of my parents, I thank the Wyomissing Borough for helping West Reading out. All right, the pipe. We have to discuss ownership responsibility to Rob on the pipe recently underwent repairs. Do we have anything to do on that?
Update on that. I'm gonna, I've had discussions with Rob's attorney and I'll have to follow up with him and see if there's any progress.
All right. So we don't have to make any recommendations on anything there.
Not at this time.
Sanitary sewer?
Boulevard Pump Station is kind of just idling along. The big hang up is waiting for a new generator that is taking forever to get here. An emergency generator in case we lose power. So that job is not complete. West Lawn Interceptor. The only little bit of news, Jim, and I'm just talking to Wexcon today, with the spring, going to item C with that Spring Township Interceptor, they're gonna be moving into the vicinity of Old Mill Road and near the pool in the next 3 weeks, give or take. And they'll be putting in a section of the West Lawn Interceptor for us while they're doing that. The item D, cleaning and repair, all the pipelining portion of that work is done, and there's a invoice there for payment.
Okay, so we have application number 1 from Sewer Specialty Services Company, Inc. Came application number 1 in amount of $200,701, even on a budgeted number of $362,000. I'll make a recommendation, we move that forward to council.
Second.
We need to do that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Does that look like it's gonna come in under budget, Jim?
Too early to tell, but
Okay.
nothing unusual has happened yet.
Sorry, it's the other side of it, it's talking. Woodland Road Sewer, we need to talk about that at all?
We award it, we need to have a pre-construction meeting at some point.
Okay, so we're all good there at this point. Moving on to streets, anything we knew we gotta do besides that application?
We have
When do we plan to, I got 10 questions, I live up there, so it's why, so does Bill. When are they gonna start?
We just handed out notices today, they're gonna put on the final blacktop Thursday and Friday of this week.
This week, okay.
Good. So there may be some closures, I can't speak to what hours but as they pave it, it'll be closed for a period of time until they lay it and it cools off, you have to drive on.
And once that's done, John, get ready to put the speed signs out, because people are flying down there. Right now, they gotta worry about blowing their tire out on the manhole covers.
That keeps
They're
it
on
going
Lincoln
slow.
right now.
What's that?
They're on Lincoln right now.
Are they?
There's one manhole cover that's missing. Or I mean,
Doesn't have a cone on it.
doesn't have a cone
Oh,
on
really?
it. And when you hit it, it jars your apple butter.
Never heard that.
Roughly,
before.
yeah.
It's the last
The
one
last
before
one.
Logan.
The
Last
last
one
one.
heading west.
Yeah.
Heading toward
Your place.
yeah.
That's
Whichever
where
direction
it's-
that is.
That's west.
Yeah, that's, what, hasn't been there all weekend.
Okay. So we have a payment application number 3 Construction Master Services LLC in the amount of $162,418.86. I'll make a motion to approve as directed by the council. Second. And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. PennDOT State Hill Road improvements. Anything new to discuss there?
John, Jim, myself, Ethan, and Greg Richardson, who is our traffic engineer, literally we're just meeting before this meeting. We received about a week ago the traffic detour plans, which, Jen, I know you will be interested in seeing these because you live over there. If I can. Oh, hold on. My attachments. All moved. I'm gonna go to the last ones.
The overall ones.
So the good news is they're not detouring. I found out something new today, which is when PennDOT is doing a project, they have to keep their detours to state-owned roads. So this is not the most ideal detour because it can add up to 15 minutes to the commute. And one of the points Greg Richardson is going to include in his return comments is that they need to consider that, local motorists who know this area are going to use broadcasting. They're going to cut down here, and probably same thing, they're going to cut in, because currently they're taking you all the way out to the highway to Texas Roadhouse, having you come down Van Reed and then turning at Austin's to come in the back way. So that's one of the detours. The other detour we have more significant concerns about because they're taking traffic off of the highway and onto crossing where there's no signalized intersection where they're getting off. There's just a stop sign there. Hi, Fred. So long story short is TPD, the police, fire, engineering, there's a combined return comment of probably 15 plus, including school district concerns that we're calling out on behalf of the school district, et cetera. So I would hope, this is draft one of this detour plan, I would hope they would take our comments into consideration and revise accordingly.
So that's the detour.
That's one of. That's one, and then,
There's 8 different stages.
yeah.
That's just for the Woodland Road, State Hill Road circle.
Right.
Lord. Just call it spade a spade. People are gonna be turning down Vista
Yes.
and Lawndale.
So
Yeah.
State Hill Road's gonna
You don't
be,
use one.
State Hill Road will
State
be
Hill
open.
Road's gonna be open the whole time. So I don't know how much people are actually gonna use
So they'll just get
that.
around the circle and then get back on State Hill, the quote unquote local.
So this is what they're gonna do, like
They're gonna
initially they're
close.
gonna keep one lane going each way, one lane north, one lane south, and then crosshatch is where they're gonna work. Then they're gonna reopen and send around the circle and do the center work. So you won't be able to get onto Woodland.
So if they use Lawndale and they turn left onto Woodland, it's gonna be closed down there. They're not gonna be able to get back onto State Hill Road. So they're either gonna wait in the traffic that's the one lane on State Hill, or they're gonna use
Side streets.
some other side streets, but.
How are the buses gonna get around? I know you just said that.
They're gonna have to totally reroute, the buses will come in on the backside.
From up top.
Yeah, like on the backside of Grandview, or come up Uplands from, they'll reroute all the buses that way. It's the only way to do it.
Elementary's last, right?
Yeah, elementary's
So at
last.
least it won't be screwing up 2 other bus routes.
Yeah, like, my guess is the elementary schools might have delays to start.
Well, the buses are getting kids out.
We have to talk-
Right, yeah, they pick up,
We have to talk to
yeah, the
Wilson
hills,
School
but
District.
everybody else will be on time, the hills will be on time.
We have to talk to the Wilson School District too,
I
because.
just added that to my note. We were just saying
With
that.
kids out of Greenwood Mall and the apartments, Woodland Plaza Apartments, Wilson's gotta pick up too, so. And that could be,
Yeah.
whenever their
When is
schools.
this supposed to start again?
26.
April.
So I gotta get at least somewhere else by then. All right. Anything else on the PennDOT State Hill Road? I think we need to be careful of what we portray going out there in public compared to what's really happening. I mean, I hear people that come to me with all kinds of crazy different things that they're gonna take down 10 buildings and put this big in. I haven't heard anything near that number.
I would encourage them to go to PennDOT's website where
That's
they
what I-
have
that's what I tell them to do.
the official plan.
Yeah, that's what I tell them to do. Okay. 50/50 sidewalk repair, that bids were due July 9th. How do we do?
So the low bidder was L&B Construction Enterprises, who did it in 22, I believe, for us.
Remember that, but yeah.
They were the low bidder at $71,254, and just it. Austin Construction was second at $83,730. Construction Masters third at $89,200, and then whoever Delaware Environmental was at $126,000. 80.
And I always break it down to the square foot price, because that's what the residents are paying on it, and it's $22 a square foot.
And how many people applied this year? Roughly.
Less than usual.
Less than usual, high 20s, low 30s maybe.
Okay, so we need to recommend who?
LB Construction Enterprises Inc. for $71,254 even.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Thanks. We have a motion and a second to increase LB Construction for that previously stated amount. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
The ayes have it.
Well, I haven't.
Dauphin Avenue.
If it comes up. Jim and I and a contractor went out and looked at that to see if,
You could slip line versus
slip form the curb as opposed to
sectional replacement.
forms.
And if you slip line, everybody has to take the slip line. You can't skip the house.
Right.
Got it.
It's half the price per foot.
The contractor thought it could be done. Every tree would have to have a tree plate for it to work, but at a less expensive cost per foot. I think the next thing I want to do is look at, with Greg, our tree foreman, is can we take some of the trees down as opposed to all of them? If they're really, I mean, some of those trees, we've seen pictures, they're eating the curb. Again, we got time, I'm looking at this not for next year, the year after, but at some point, a decision will have to be made. Are we gonna give everybody on 2, maybe 3 blocks curb notices and say, it's all gotta go? But we're not at that point yet.
I talked to 2 people on Dauphin since the last time. I don't think it was at the last meeting, so 2 meetings ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're all firmly expecting it.
Okay, good. Tell
Because
them to talk to the neighbors.
their
for this.
curbs
The curbs are in bad shape.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. The only question I have is, there's a couple intersections on, and I forget the cross street, Cleveland. Is it Cleveland?
No, it wouldn't be Cross Street.
No, Lake would be
Lake,
across
Forest,
Lake
and
Forest.
Wyomissing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not subject for this. I'm thinking of Cleveland and some other intersection where we put in the handicap spot, the handicap ramp, but the road has a crown on it to the point that all the water's now getting shoved up onto those lower end, up on the sidewalk and then down into their yard.
Could be Forest.
I think it is Forest.
Forest and Cleveland.
Yeah, that's where you.
I mean, you see, people put sandbags out when it's gonna rain hard, so that the water doesn't run up through their yard into their backyard, then into the alley, and then who knows where it goes from there, pop it back onto Forest. Something that we need to take a look at, I think. And it wasn't that long ago that we did the curbs.
Sidewalk.
The sidewalk with the.
Ramp.
Probably when we did, there at Forest, probably when we did Forest Avenue. We haven't paved Cleveland. We paved 1,500-1,600 blocks of Cleveland, and all
Which
Forest.
22?
Because I remember the parade, that was a concern for the parade route.
22.
No, that was Garfield.
Okay, no.
Yeah, Garfield.
Okay, all right, sorry to belabor the point. So we're, motion you just have approved tonight.
Do you need a motion yet?
No.
We don't
No,
know.
we
It's
don't
just
need to do
one
anything
thing.
else. Okay. Cambridge Avenue culvert, pedestrian bridge, we have a payment application, is there anything new besides the payment application?
The bridge is done,
And the new things, looks
and the
nice.
decorative bollards and the additional paving around the decorative bollards all finished.
Got it.
They're just waiting till October to go to the
Great.
box culvert work. on the other phase.
Cambridge.
The Cambridge part of the project. Because we have that, or actually it's November through
And a
March.
reminder, this is partially grant funded and we're going to submit for reimbursement piecemeal, not wait till the end. So Phyllis is working on pulling those numbers together now.
Okay, great. So we have payment application number 5 from CMS, for $5,700 even. That needs to be recommended to council. I'll go ahead and make that motion. There's a motion and a second to pay CMS $5,700 for payment application number 5. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Administration of Police Department study needs. I will admit, I looked at it, I didn't read it in total detail. But we do have a subcommittee for that,
Yes,
which I think we'll now have to set a time so we
I
discuss that.
figured it was easier for us to do that when we were all in person than me going back and forth over email with calendars.
Next council meeting.
Okay. You wanna do that right now?
That or I can drive through the after the meeting, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
We still need our signatures on the paper thing.
I'll get to it in a second.
Why don't you get a chance to drive by, where is that building on Park Road?
It's Jim's, it's a non-option at this point because Jim's operating out of it.
Oh, so why is it an option?
Because it was just for comparison's sake as to where's another property in the borough we already know the numbers on, because we've been looking at
It
that
had been under consideration.
a year ago.
In 1335, that's just half of that building?
1235. There's 2 buildings,
Right.
it is one of the 2 buildings.
Okay. Public Works Garage, we got a lot of payment applications we gotta approve, huh?
How's it coming along?
It's coming along, the heavier work seemed to have gone faster than, now it's down to painting, drywall, some electrical work, site grading work. I'm hoping to be in there, what do you think, Greg, September?
So we have some payment applications, I don't have the attached, okay, there we go. So we have payment application number 8 to Baltic Construction for $109,455.51. So we'll need a motion to send that to council. Second. Motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I will abstain due to my employment status at Tompkins Financial. We have payment application number 4 for A.H. Moyer in the amount of $58,108.58 that we need to.
105.
50 cents.
Wait, there's conflicts here.
Go down to the payout below.
58,108.
58,108.50.
Okay, so we think that's what I said. So,
We did, but it was,
all right, some 55. So we need a motion to go ahead and process that.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? I abstain, same reason. Payment application number 3 to A.H. Moyer in the amount of $54,697.50. We need a motion to that liking if we want to send it to council.
so moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Sorry, I rescind that comment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I will abstain, sorry. And we have payment application number 3 to Accelerated Fire Protections, Inc. in the amount of $26,559.14. And I'll take a recommendation for that.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I abstain. The ayes have it. Is that all?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any news on Fast Bridge Fiber? I haven't seen them working at all.
No update, good update.
Stonehouse project,
We just had pre-con on that at Jim's office this morning. They're gonna start next Monday.
Yep. I'm dropping off their signed contract after this meeting to them.
We did talk about, closing off with like orange construction fence. Basically from, if you would park on Parkside Drive south, if you would come across the new Ped Bridge, there's gonna be a detour sign basically pointing everybody to the left, cause that is not gonna be under construction, so that will remain open. Everything from straight ahead to Wyomissing Boulevard is going to be fenced off, so people can't get in there.
Around the pond.
Yes,
When's the lantern parade?
this week.
They wanted to
That
start,
was
they wanted to
intentional
start this
timing,
week, that's
yes.
why we pushed them to Monday for the lantern parade.
We've been hard to have a parade around something you can't parade around. Okay.
Yeah.
Good work. Parkland study,
No real update other than I expect a draft of the final report in the pretty near future, so staff can start reviewing it.
any information, any updates on the lead rule update?
Just another one of those unfunded mandates like the PFAS. We were giving NTEC, who we're using to submit all this information to the DEP, giving them the last of our information. I think they need it by August 14th, something like that. We're still gonna have a lot of service lines that we don't know what they are, and if you don't know what they are, they consider them possibly lead. But I don't know what happens in 2025, what rulings are gonna have as far as what you have to do about these unknown service lines. I know we have to let the property owner know that it's a possibility to have a lead service line. We'll have to start that next year.
Can we, is there a way, and I'm not saying we should do it, but is there a way that if we have to find out, you could drill a core sample sort of kind of thing down to find out to the pipes, top of the pipe to see if it's lead or not?
The way I would possibly see it going is you can see what's coming through the wall in the house if you can get in the house. Is it copper, is it galvanized, is it lead? Which is easy. But there's the way it is set up now, that is not good enough information. It could be lead in their front yard. That's how crazy it gets. Where we would literally have to, I see it, we have a back truck and we locate their service line and literally back up, pull down in the front yard and try to see what it is 10 feet behind the curb. It could get to that.
Sounds like a little bit more than a core sample, huh?
Yeah, it could get to that point. But no one's really sure at this point.
Okay. One of those mandates that people don't think the whole thing through, I guess. MS4 stormwater update.
I try to do this once every year or two, especially for new people that are on here. We always hear that term MS4. Just a general overview, and we're starting to spend some money now shortly, and what we're doing. So in 2003, DEP made any municipality that had an urbanized area get a permit so we could discharge stormwater into the creek. Before that, there was no rule on that. It rained, it went into the catch basin, went into a pipe, went into a creek. But as of 2003, you had to apply to the DEP to get a permit. And they're 5-year, I think they're 5-year permit cycles. And during the first 3 or 4 cycles, all we had to do was do public education, go to schools and talk to the environmental club. I'm sure you've seen on catch basins, some of them labeled no dumping drains to creek.
Yeah.
We had to walk the creek and look at all of our outlets and visually inspect them, make sure there's nothing obvious that's pollutant coming out of them. We have a memorandum of understanding with the conservation district that when there is construction with more than an acre, they have to comply with runoff rules for soil. All these pushing a lot of paper was the first years of the cycle. But now our current permit ends in 2026, and we're finally going to be putting a shovel in the ground for some projects. The Wyomissing Creek is a high-quality cold water fishery. That's its designation. And when the DEP did their sampling, it doesn't meet those criteria. Don't ask me what the criteria are. but it's degraded to a point where it doesn't meet the definition of a high quality of cold water fishing. So what do you gotta do? Well, you gotta remove 10% of the sediment. The problem is there's too much sediment in the creek, trout can't reproduce. So the rule is we have to remove 10% of the sediment during this cycle. We could do it alone as Wyomissing Borough, but back in the early 2000s, shortly after this permitting was needed, a group got together, the Wyomissing Creek Coalition. Whoever's in the drainage basin for the Wyomissing Creek, Spring Township, Brecknott, Newton, Shillington, the city, us, Kumru, West Reading, and we got together as a group to remove this 10% sediment, which was a great idea. I think there's only one or two groups in the state that did it on a watershed basis, so it's pretty neat that it came from Berks County anyway. And during these earlier years of permitting, the group has generated a list of projects that basically give us the most bang for a buck. And we're trying to implement two of them. And this is the one picture I sent you.
You sent me a lot of pictures, so.
So what do the 4 S's stand for again?
Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System.
Is this the screenshot?
Yeah. This is over in Moton. I was only over there one time. The Highbrook condo apartments. I don't know.
Okay, that was too much.
Yeah. And you can see on the left-hand side, right now there's a ravine there, and it's just exposed soil, and every time it rains, it washes that sediment into the Wyomissing Creek. And if we put that in a pipe and discharge it out and fill in the swale, there's some voodoo calculation that only the engineers know how to do that.
We don't tell anybody else.
That, hey, we removed 2 million pounds of sediment or 1,000 pounds of sediment. This one, I don't know what the number is, but it'll help us attain that goal of 5%. And that money that the borough puts away every year for stormwater, 80,000 a year, some of that money's gonna go to this project, even though it's in Moton. But it helps us comply with the DEP that we're part of the Wyomissing Creek Coalition, and it counts for us, but it's a group.
So to be clear,
effort.
without the coalition, each of those entities would have had to take 10% out
Of their own,
thing,
yes.
so it
Correct.
makes sense, okay.
Correct.
Just to be clear. For new people.
The second project that we're working on, and this is the one I like, but we're hitting resistance, is behind the Lowe's in Spring Township, the Lowe's giant shopping center. There's that big detention basin there. It's overbuilt, never gets full. And if we could hold more water back there, if we get a heavy rain event, it would help us with flooding, because that water eventually gets down to the Logan Avenue Dam. And it would remove a lot of sediment, because you're holding the water back. But Spring Township is leery of doing that because of sinkhole potential. So the group is working with Spring Township, trying to satisfy them that, hey, if we do some grout injection, or what can we do to satisfy your worries about sinkholes? So hopefully that one will materialize here at some point, if we get Spring Township on board. But I just like it because it would help our flooding events downstream. Great. The Tulpahawken Creek does not have a coalition, and Jim's office and I, we have to do the same thing for the Tulpahawken, but it's sediment and nitrogen.
Right, nitrates.
So when we put our $80,000 away, it's for the Wyomissing Creek Coalition, but also for us to do some things internally. And we're looking at a project behind Berkshire Boulevard. What can I say it?
Behind Merlin's building.
Where there's a big swale between Spring Township and the Borough behind Berkshire Boulevard. And if we can retain some water or let some groundwater penetration happen there, we'll hit our first goal for the Tulpahawken Creek. And first step is we gotta get a hold of some landowners out there to let us do some work on their property, basically. Peter Carlino being the main one, yeah.
His personal property.
Well, he
He
owns it in,
Development.
Carlina Development,
Whatever,
yeah.
So you're talking about that swale between those?
I can't think what the housing
Seven Oaks.
development, Seven Oaks,
Behind
right.
Seven
And,
Oaks.
and the new lane of the exit there for to get off. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. You're along the highway, it runs parallel to the highway.
Yeah,
Got it.
Got it.
it's concrete now. We have to rip out the concrete, turn it back to grass.
And because we did this, now we can put in our annual report that we did public
Public
education.
education.
That specifically.
Fair game.
So, when I was on the museum board back in the early 2000s, when we took out Mirror Lake there, so that was supposed to alleviate a lot of the flooding, which it did, but I was under the impression that trout were breeding at that point.
I'm not a biologist, and I think there is some trout production in the creek, but it doesn't meet whatever the criteria are for high quality cold water fishery. There's some criteria with the bugs and the reproduction that they test for, you know, and it's not meeting those criteria.
So is there alternate criteria besides voodoo criteria? Or no, it's just voodoo?
Well, the voodoo is how you calculate the credit.
That pipe that we showed the picture of, there's some calculation that engineers can do, I think with DEP guidance of
Yeah.
how much credit you can take,
For
length,
each-
width, height.
Yeah.
So that
Drainage
water,
area flows to it.
that actual, that we're gonna potentially pipe in is water that eventually gets to the creek. That's not, it's obviously not the creek itself.
The one in Moton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes to the
That's
Wyomissing Creek in Moton.
Got it.
Ours over by the Carlino property, that's taking out a concrete channel and making it a grass line
I
channel.
assume we're gonna have to put a glass cover over all the creeks and make sure nothing gets in it.
Another unfunded mandate, this is the third
We'll
one.
put stormwater treatment plants in there. And then pipe. Okay. Anything else on MS4? Now that you've enlightened us?
No.
Okay. Commonwealth Charter Academy wants to withdraw their waiver from the borough's standard sidewalk specs to construct snow melt sidewalks. So they're going back, they already built it, but they're just building regular sidewalk according to borough spec, no snow melt.
No more snow melt.
No more snow melt. Which I guess is why they didn't show up last month.
Are they doing it at all on property that's not part of the public sidewalk?
It
Yes.
is.
They are.
As far as I know, I haven't been down there to inspect that.
So we get to see if it works, but it's not gonna affect our sidewalk.
So are we willing to acknowledge the waiver withdrawal request? Yeah, we need a motion to do that. I'll make the motion to acknowledge the waiver withdrawal request.
Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry. Pass on the council. Split rail fence in the parkland. Discuss the possibility of, I believe it's Boy Scouts, right?
Well, I'm totally confused by this, I don't know what it means. Discuss removal of the fence in the parkland, there's no fence there historically, so I'm not sure what that means, and replacement of the fence. And Florida Teeter, who I don't even know as a person, or that, whatever, was recommending the fence not be replaced. There's no fence there, but there is a group that wanted to put a section of fence there because it looked good and was very picturesque, and it's something that Wyomissing's had for 100 years, but it's turned into building a Lockheed Martin jet, so I'm not sure what any of this means or says, but I'll be happy to explain it if anybody's willing to be from.
Do you want to explain Florida Teeter?
Flora Teeter's the consultant the borough hired to do the Parklands master plan study. Who, when we did the Parklands walk last month, that area was pointed out as there's been a request to reinstall the fence here, and they said we would recommend against that because it's in a floodplain.
So the first dot is irrelevant, because there's nothing to remove, so it's
Just a little
background.
Well, it's,
Background.
yes.
Okay. So the fence, which is sort of a bit annoying, because I mentioned this this a while back. Boy Scouts would like to come in and make a presentation to talk about how Jim or somebody else might be involved in making this 25 feet of incredibly difficult project work. And that hasn't happened. And all of a sudden, 6 Girl Scouts march in here to do the boulevard, which is like, I don't know, I think it could be.
Well, I think the big difference is we didn't have someone study that said that you shouldn't do it. And
Well, it's already been done, and who these people are, it just, they shouldn't put a fence up.
Listen, I'm not gonna argue against you, I'm just gonna tell you you're comparing it to something that
Well,
is
it's all right.
irrelevant.
Well, it may be irrelevant, but now that we've had another program that we paid extensively for, there's someone's recommended to us, we not put 20 feet of split rail fence in a part of the park that's been there forever, and we're actually considering this, and it's in a floodplain. It's in a floodplain? I think the old Wyomissing Road has been there for 1,000 years, and it's a split rail fence, it's not the Bismarck.
How many times was the split rail fence had to be fixed due to floods?
After any major flood event.
Right, well, I don't know what a major flood is, but people need boats to get out of.
Twice,
the water.
once every 2 years, that would be my estimate.
All right, and to fix it, I mean, what's there to fix a split rail fence? If it's 2 feet in the ground, and it's still there when the water goes
I
under
think you're
it.
saying that it wasn't there.
Well, it's
Parts
been
of it.
there for I lived there for 25 years, and I don't remember anybody placing a fence, and there's a fence of equal size right across the street, right across the road, which is no more than 15 feet. So there's one over here that goes the whole length, where Peter Georgie lives and Al Stallone lived. On the other side, it was like 20 feet. So I don't mean to break the bank here or have projects that make no sense, but don't stop driving me nuts, all right? If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But it doesn't seem, it's something that people take pictures of, their kids sit on it, they go down at Christmas time. It's kind of neat. If you don't think it's neat, then let's just paint the stripes and boulevard.
The fence on the other side of the road
I understand.
is personal property.
What? Of course it is,
Private
but it's been there for, but it didn't disappear during all these floods, so they don't put it back again.
Well, it's not
been there
exactly
forever.
right next to the creek either.
All right, let's not do it, forget it. I mean, I brought it up because I thought it'd be nice, it's a good touch. My other comment is there's 76 light standards in Wyomissing that look like they were painted last, right after World War II. They need to be taken care of. I'm told PP&L owns it, and I'd be more than happy to call the president of PP&L and see if they'll paint them. And if they say,
We're not on this.
I know that, but these are the things that I've been talking about for a long time, and they just get ignored.
Well, I'm not gonna argue that there aren't holes to be painted, but it's not on the agenda to talk about.
All right, well, it doesn't matter. We'll blow off the fence, and I'll tell the Boy Scouts, we can just kidding.
Okay, so,
If the Boy Scouts need a project, seriously, there's a gazebo.
Well, no, I'm not trying to look for I looked for that project because I knew how tight we are with what we spend money. We blow money at $250,000 increments for things that the insurance picks up. But to pay $5,000 for 8 feet of wood to put on a fence, it sounds like it's, so what's the big deal?
so what is the ultimate idea?
Is that the
you
other
have?
picture?
There's a gazebo.
I think I sent you something, yeah, here, we have some pictures of it.
That could use some more.
This is in front of the tennis courts at the Stonehouse property. It's an old gazebo, and I don't know the history of it.
Boy, I think that some scouts made it.
It used to, I think it used to be at the Penn State Berks campus when it was back in the day at Penn and
Here.
Park. And then somehow it got here, and there was a Boy Scout project 10, 15 years ago to try to refurbish it, and he did. But 10 or 15 years have gone by, and it needs another.
Is it structurally sound?
Greg knows more about than I
It
do.
needs work.
Like I know.
It needs some attention.
It's a good project for some scouts.
It's been there since I was in 3rd grade, so it's one of those things that we probably don't need it, so we might as well just tear it down, throw it away.
I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about asking the scouts if we understand you want to do the fence project, but we recommended not to do it. Here's a project that we could use some help on, would you be willing to do it? Plus it's something that you've done in the past. Okay.
Also not on the agenda, but in that.
Right, exactly, that's why I'm getting off it. So we need some kind of motion to replace the split rail fence in the parklands at the, from the BD property to Bruce Bridge, and I assume that's the bridge, that's about the fence obviously on the creek side. Does anyone want to make the motion?
Well, that's not, that description is not correct, because from.
What's on the agenda?
I know, but that property, that length is well over 100 feet.
That's
So
what.
at one point, we're talking about the existing fence, which was around 20 feet, versus now doing it to 100 feet.
I'm just, the takeaway was from the last conversation.
I
on
understand,
infrastructure.
I know where it came from,
Yeah.
I know where it came from, I'm just saying, we're being presented two different scenarios.
If there's a motion there and somehow is being ascribed to me, then I withdraw it. If it's not my motion, then whoever made it can do whatever they want.
We haven't made a motion yet today.
What's that?
We haven't done anything today. All right. Do we want to table this?
I make a motion to table.
Okay, we're gonna have a better idea of exactly how much, what the exact footage is of it, and then we'll discuss it next month. But we can tell the Boy Scouts that
Can you give me distances on that?
our parkland study has said it's not a good idea to replace. And maybe in that time frame we can discuss the
Gazebo
gazebo.
project.
Or, excuse me, we can talk about alternate things that they can do.
Well, there's no need to table it if you're telling them it's not worth doing. We're tabling it.
Well, we can tell them that's not worth doing, and they can ask this, but we have to make a motion to table, approve, or deny the replacement of split rail fence. Table, just, it comes up to the next meeting. Okay, anything else on that one? Oh, wait, we need a motion to table, I'll make the motion to table it. Okay, I'll second it, someone second it? Okay, we have a motion to second, all those in favor? Aye.
Can we make sure the gazebo idea is on the next agenda?
All right.
Jim's on it.
The ayes, any opposed? The ayes have it. Wildflower area in the parklands, so that's me, I have to put that on the agenda. I got asked by someone who thinks they know, are experts in wildflowers, and when we're done using the area that is between the pool and Parkside Drive on the other side, whatever that one is, south, there's like a parking lot that we've made now. And there are some people who just said that they think they could make that into a wildflower area.
Pollinators.
Pollinators, all that good stuff.
It's probably, if any of you go to Blue Marsh, like this time of the year especially, it is beautiful with all the wildflowers. They do sections of sunflowers. I'm guessing it's something similar to that.
Yes,
All
I haven't got too
natives.
much detail, but I wanted to get to the point that at least we would consider, now, how long is that parking lot gonna be there, Jim? We're gonna need it again next year, right?
I would say that would not be cleaned up until spring of next year.
So we're talking about fall of next year, but I just wanna let everybody know that there's been a group of people who've come to me, as of now, it would involve no funding from the borough, just some oversight from the borough. They would throw dirt on top of the existing stuff we have now, making it a while. It sounds to me as though it would be a good idea, just because it's something that's heavily traveled. You can see it, it's nice.
Paths.
I don't know that answer.
I would respectfully punt that to Parks and Shade since it's part of the parklands.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I don't think it's a
These
bad
people have
idea.
expertise. The reason I ask that is we've tried at different spots in the past, some with success and some with no success. But we're amateurs at planting wildflower.
Yeah, wildflower garden isn't
Cast the seed,
isn't no maintenance. I mean, it still requires maintenance. It requires making sure you're using seed from a safe space that's not introducing more invasives.
And just
So
getting it to
I'm
grow.
looking at just getting
Yeah.
the idea out there, since we have to have it on the agenda. I had to get it on the agenda
Yeah.
to discuss it. I think there's a lot more information we need to get. I knew that going into it, but just to get an idea if it would work, if it's an idea that people would be opposed to, but I agree. send it to Park and Shade Tree and let them discuss it also.
And along those lines, I think there's an area around with like the same consideration.
Yeah,
Where's
about a year ago,
Wildfire Apartment, we can talk about it.
well, it's worked for 5 years, and according to Jim, if I recall what he said a year ago when I wrote this up, that there was a guy on his staff that liked wildflowers. And
Dwayne.
the section next to the Wyomissing Foundation where people park their cars is marshland. It may not be marshland to Mr. Flora Peters' idea, but it's marshland. When I walk across there every day for 20 years, it was always wet. So this guy, apparently, unpaid by the borough, just decided that wildflowers look cool. So he put wildflowers there, and people walk down that path all the time. And for 10 years that I'd come down the hill and run there, there'd be wildflowers every spring. There was nobody watering them, and there was nobody doing anything. They were just wildflowers. So that was a year ago. Good idea, Steve. Maybe we can have 2 places.
I'm fine with that.
Floor
It's not a
Interior
big
has,
deal.
is gonna have a ton of ideas, there's a lot that needs to be
Well,
done
mine
with
are free.
parklands.
That
Well-
specific area was one of the areas they
That
talked about
was-
doing boardwalks or something else
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
the
they're,
marsh
they're
area.
aware of the marsh.
Next to the foundation you're talking about.
Yeah.
the area Ron's talking about, yes.
We're
I mean,
almost done
it's a chip shot. We don't need a $50,000 grant to get somebody to tell us to put wildflowers here. We're there to grow. Put them in there. Let's get moving. I mean, everything takes forever.
You're talking about specifically that there's a small,
Well, it's that whole
Yeah.
section. If you walk
But-
past there, you
No,
end
they're
up.
not blooming
And the back-
anymore.
back
So
behind the park.
they're not blooming anymore, is that what you're
No,
telling me?
they've been there since this guy left. Nobody picked up the bag of wildflower seeds and threw them in there anymore, so it's not getting done.
so it's between Old Wyomissing Road, Foundation Building,
It's right
and
down the
park.
road from Rosato's house, right to the right, that whole section right there.
Right, so you're talking about the whole thing, behind the lot and everything.
Right, because you can't walk in here, it's, you get.
Wasn't that, did we talk about that being overgrown by some,
Japanese knotweed.
Invasives, yeah.
That's one of the recommendations in the study too.
okay. Well, maybe it would be best to wait till that study comes out to figure out what the hell we're doing.
Agreed, this isn't something that's gonna happen today, I just wanted to get it out of time, that's what we're talking about.
But I don't mind either one of
I
those.
mean, if there's something there, and we have some wildflower seeds, throw them down, I have no problem with that.
Agreed.
Okay, we already did 21, 22, here we go. Street sweeper purchase.
Greg is gonna take the lead on this.
So our street sweeper has been in the shop as much as it's been on the street this year. It's cost us $36,000 in repairs this year. We had to rent a sweeper for the 4th of July, just because it was in the shop and we didn't know when it was coming back. To get a new sweeper, it's 10 months till you order it and actually get it. So we're throwing it out there, you know, this sweeper's $370. We'd like to try to get a new sweeper before next year, so we're not jammed up next year.
I thought you said it takes 10 months to get one.
But if you wait until you start budget discussions and that gets finalized and then it's ordered, versus the cost to continue to repair it and run another one.
Yeah, rental for a week is $3,400. And we borrow from West Reading, we've gone without, but we have scheduled streets that don't get done, people are hauling.
How much does it really cost?
370,000.
370.
But we spent 10% of that already this year just repairing ours.
And we could get something for the old one, we could sell and get something. It's roll the dice and go with it, or
One other caveat, Greg, if you want to mention
the tree truck.
the tree truck.
The tree truck was ordered in '23, and that will be on '25's budget as well.
This committee had approved the purchase of a new bucket truck a year or two ago because of the 2-year lead time for it. And that is scheduled for delivery in 2025.
So that'll be on your budget, 2025.
Yeah,
Thanks,
these
so I'm not
two
worried
would
about
be
that.
on 2025 budget.
Well, if there's gonna be on 2025's budget, no, we gotta wait to approve the budget.
Yeah, if we
Well-
wait till next year, I won't have it.
So the 370 wouldn't come out of finances in 2024, it'd come out in 2025.
Correct.
But don't ask for anything else, parks and maintenance.
That's kind of the way we look at it.
Then I'm okay with it, as long as we take that, but that's gotta be in consideration for the budget for next year, because you're not getting
Anything else?
the whole sweeping match that you got last year.
Right. No, Greg and I have spoken about it. Getting a bucket truck and a sweeper.
He's like
Asking
looking
for
at
any more
you.
car, I said I was,
Asking for any
in
cars
one
this
fell,
year.
in 1 year's budget cycle, we realized it's a big lift. I mean, no doubt about it. And, we better come in as timid little mice asking for things.
Well, it's the cost of repairs.
You're saying we spent $37,000 in repairs?
36.
In repairs.
$36,000 in repairs on this thing, just this year?
Just
in
this
the last
year.
6 months?
And we're not gonna get it
And
until,
not
till
including its
leaf
1%
season begins
roll
next year,
limit every week.
other than cleaning the parade route. I know we use it for.
No, we get MS4 credit for all of that sediment it picks up off the
Yeah.
street. That's part of our MS4 requirements, it's part of other
Look,
grants.
I got no problem if you know going in that you've already spent 370 on your 2025 budget, don't get crazy.
We spent more than that.
But let me,
You're not helping here, Greg.
I
You
know.
know,
How much can we use of the, recycling and,
You can't use it for the sweeper.
the recycling grant will not do a
Why
street.
it's su- it,
I know.
it sucks up the leaves.
I know.
That's right.
But just, and with Steve's comment, just so everybody's clear, that because of our tree cover, our street sweeper compared to most municipalities, it's out all the time. We have 50 miles of roads, 100 miles of curb line, and if it's not dead of winter, that machine's out almost every day.
It's only down for 2 months, girl, 2-3 months.
I have absolutely no problem with, as long as it's taken care of in the budgeting process, that if you're asking for this, and this, the first this, and this are history. So be prepared.
How many days does it take to do 100 miles?
To do one complete cycle, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, roughly.
Okay.
But there's 3 to 4 weeks because of the tree cover.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
We don't see them much in the hills up there, I haven't seen them in a long time.
Well,
Yeah.
now, during the 4th of July, we do concentrate a little heavier here, but, no, we don't,
Trees aren't as mature in Wyomissing yet.
We have a lot of mature trees.
I know, but not like we do.
Not
on
as
this
mature.
side. Right.
And there are a lot of people in the borough that anecdotally have missed the process because it's now. They like the fact that
Right.
the streets are clean. So
Yeah.
we don't take surveys and say something nice about us. But when you're out there talking to people, they talk about it, and they talk about nice
No, I agree.
things. We do.
I
So
agree.
it's worth it.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to approve recommending the Finance and Admin Committee to review the street sweeper request and make further recommendation to council. But since I know a lot of people on that committee, I will tell you that just be preparing that in your budget for 2025.
if you need
I'll second your motion.
documentation or any kind of paper information, we can get it to you. You know,
Showing it's 375, it's just 5,000 less than.
Any supporting information would be greatly appreciated for finance.
Pass it through the finance and get us what we can get. That's why we deal in budgets. All right. 22.
That's it.
That's it. Any, we want to make a recommendation to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a hard time with that.
Before anybody leaves, if you're a council member and have not signed the
I
conditional,
haven't signed yet.
and also Jen, Bill, and Steve, I need you for deeds.
After.
I got other stuff to do.
So do I.
Yes.